Ethan Cole had never expected his day to start like this. The hum of the Aurora 7 mining station was comforting, familiar, and safe, a constant rhythm in the otherwise vast emptiness of space. He moved among the rows of mining drones, tools clinking softly against metal surfaces, checking circuits, tightening bolts, and adjusting power outputs. Routine, order, and precision, that was his world. And yet, deep down, he felt a strange pull, a curiosity that refused to rest. It began with a signal, not the usual transmission from the station's command center or the nearby colony ships. This was different, oddly patterned, rhythmic, almost like someone or something was calling out. Ethan paused, wiping grease from his hands, and stared at the console. The readings were faint, but unmistakable. They weren't from any known colony. Not from Earth's fleet, and certainly not from any of the Allied systems. Without a second thought, he suited up. Space was dangerous, yes, but curiosity had always been his guiding principle. If there was something out there, something unknown, he had to see it for himself. The station's automated systems tried to warn him of potential asteroid hazards, rogue ships, and radiation pockets. But Ethan's mind was focused. He set the coordinates for the source, a small uncharted asteroid cluster, and activated the shuttle. The journey was tense. Meteorites drifted lazily past the viewport, glittering like distant stars. Ethan's hands were steady, but his mind raced. What could be sending this signal? An abandoned alien ship? A hidden research probe? Or perhaps something alive? The thought made his stomach twist. When he finally approached the asteroid, he could see it was no ordinary rock. Embedded in its surface was a metallic structure, sleek and otherworldly, partially concealed beneath jagged edges of stone. Its hull shimmered faintly, a strange iridescence that pulsed as if alive. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't just a ship, it was something extraordinary. As he docked his shuttle and stepped onto the rocky surface, a faint vibration ran through the ground. He approached the alien craft cautiously, each step echoing in his helmet. The signal grew stronger. A hatch slid open silently, revealing a tall figure, unlike anything he had seen before. Her name, as he would later learn, was Liara. She was a Virelian, an alien of legendary reputation in distant systems. Her body shimmered with subtle colors, scales glinting in hues that shifted with the light. Her eyes were large and deep, almost hypnotic, and her movements were graceful, precise, and alert. Ethan froze, unsure whether to raise his hands or retreat. Liara studied him carefully. Her posture was defensive but not aggressive. Ethan could sense intelligence, caution, and curiosity all at once. He activated the universal translator and spoke slowly. "I mean no harm. My name is Ethan Cole. I work at the Aurora 7 station. I received your signal. Are you okay?" The translator crackled before rendering her words into English. "You approach boldly, human. Most of your kind would have fled at first sight. Why do you not?" Ethan swallowed. "Curiosity, I guess. And I wanted to help if I could." There was silence. Then a faint tilt of her head, a subtle acknowledgement. "Help, perhaps. But trust is earned, not given freely." The tension between them was palpable. Ethan tried to ignore it, focusing on the ship. It was damaged, and from the looks of it, not recently. Panels were scorched, energy conduits burned out, and a faint smoke drifted from the rear. "I can help repair your ship," he offered, "if you let me inside." Liara hesitated, then motioned for him to follow. Inside, the ship was alien in every sense. Organic curves blending with metallic precision, holographic displays floating in midair, and corridors that seemed longer than they logically could be. Ethan moved carefully, examining the damaged systems. His knowledge of human tech helped, but some systems were unlike anything he had encountered. He adapted quickly, improvising, connecting power conduits, and stabilizing core systems. As he worked, Liara observed him quietly, her gaze sharp yet strangely soft. Ethan felt it. Her attention was more than observation. It was something he hadn't expected. He glanced up once, meeting her eyes. She didn't look away. Instead, her lips curved slightly. "You keep staring like that," she whispered, her voice low and melodic, "and I might start to like it." Ethan blinked, startled. He wasn't sure if she was teasing, warning, or confessing. I'm just focused," he said, though his voice betrayed him. He returned to the circuits, but his hands were no longer steady. The moment lingered. There was an energy between them, subtle but undeniable. Ethan realized that in this vast galaxy, isolated and cold, he had never met anyone or anything that made him feel this way. He wasn't just curious about her technology or her mission. He was curious about her. The asteroid storm began then, a sudden surge of radiation and debris. Alarms blared as the ship rocked violently. Ethan grabbed onto a railing, steadying himself, while Liara activated the ship's defensive shields. Sparks flew, panels flickered, and the entire vessel groaned under pressure. Working together, they managed to stabilize the systems, their cooperation instinctive, unspoken. Through the chaos, Ethan noticed small gestures, a hand guiding him away from a sparking panel, a glance that lingered just a moment too long, a subtle shift in her posture that mirrored his own. The storm outside was brutal, yet inside the ship, an unlikely connection was forming. When the turbulence subsided, silence settled. The ship's lights flickered back to normal, and the hum of the systems became steady once more. Ethan leaned against a console, catching his breath. Liara approached, her movement deliberate, calm, and unnervingly human in its subtlety. She studied him, her gaze unwavering. "You have courage," she said finally, "and something else. Curiosity, perhaps, or folly. I cannot decide." Ethan smiled faintly, brushing soot from his sleeve. "I've always believed curiosity keeps life interesting, and sometimes it leads to unexpected friendships." Liara's lips curved slightly, and for a moment the stoic alien facade fell away. "Friendship," she murmured, almost to herself. "Perhaps." She looked out the viewport at the asteroid field. "Your kind is different. Fragile yet bold, reckless yet persistent. I do not understand it fully, but I am intrigued." Ethan turned to her, meeting her gaze. "Then maybe that makes two of us." They spent the next hours repairing essential systems together. Each solved problem brought them closer, not just as allies, but as beings discovering each other's nature. Ethan learned about Liara's world, her political struggles, the rival factions threatening her people. Liara learned about human resilience, about ingenuity that often overcame physical limitations. In the shared silence between explanations and repairs, a bond began to grow. When night fell over the asteroid cluster, Ethan and Liara found themselves sitting on the observation deck, staring at the distant stars. The silence was comfortable, almost intimate. Liara turned her head slightly, observing him with those deep, shifting eyes. "You stare at me too often," she said softly, echoing her earlier words. "It unnerves me, and yet I do not wish for you to stop." Ethan chuckled quietly, a nervous but genuine sound. "I can't stop. You're remarkable. Not just your appearance, but everything about you." Her lips curved faintly, and she leaned back, studying the star field. "Humans are strange," she said. "Bold in thought, reckless in action, yet capable of unexpected care." Her voice faltered slightly, a rare moment of vulnerability. Ethan realized then that he wasn't just fascinated by her, he cared. He cared for her safety, her feelings, and the bond forming between them. In a galaxy where humans were often underestimated, he found himself standing shoulder to shoulder with a being whose kind had dominated legends for centuries. And yet, here they were, equal, connected, and perhaps on the verge of something neither fully understood. The asteroid storm had passed, but another storm, one of curiosity, trust, and unspoken emotion, was just beginning. Ethan knew that the days ahead would be dangerous. Liara's enemies were not idle, and her ship, though repaired for now, was still vulnerable. Yet he also knew that whatever awaited them, they would face it together. And in that quiet moment, he heard her whisper again, almost more to herself than to him. "You keep staring like that, and I might start to like it." Ethan smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers and mysteries, yet for the first time, he felt a connection that mattered more than anything else. And though neither of them knew where this bond would lead, they both understood one truth. Sometimes trust and courage could bridge the gap between species, worlds, and even hearts. The first part of their journey ended with the stars stretching endlessly before them, a promise of adventure, danger, and perhaps something more, something extraordinary born from courage, curiosity, and a fleeting whisper that neither would forget. The stars stretched endlessly before them as Ethan and Liara navigated the repaired ship through the quiet regions of space. The hum of the engines was steady, almost soothing, yet the tension of the past days lingered. Both knew that danger was not far behind. Liara's enemies, the rival factions that had sabotaged her vessel, were still active, and her home sector was unstable. But for the moment, they were alone. And for the first time, Ethan allowed himself to relax, just a little. Liara observed him quietly, noting the way he moved, the careful precision of his hands even in the confined alien corridors. Humans were often underestimated, but she had come to see that Ethan's strength lay not just in physical skill or technical knowledge, but in his calm courage and unwavering curiosity. She found herself watching him more often than she intended, her mind drawn to the human in a way that surprised her. "You stare at me too often," she said suddenly, echoing her earlier words. Ethan looked up from the console, surprised by the repetition. I can't help it," he admitted, smiling slightly. "You're remarkable." Liara tilted her head, her eyes catching the reflection of distant starlight. "Remarkable? Humans are fragile creatures. How can you understand a being like me?" Ethan shrugged, leaning back against the console. "I don't fully understand you, but I do know this. I want to try. That's enough for now." The moment was brief but meaningful. Neither spoke for a while, and the silence between them was comfortable. It was rare to find such calm in the midst of chaos. Rare to find someone who didn't just exist in your world, but expanded it. Their journey to Liara's home system was not easy. The rival factions had left sensors and patrols scattered across the sector, hoping to intercept her. Ethan's ingenuity was put to the test as he navigated asteroid fields and cloaked mines. He rigged the ship's systems to create false signals, confusing the enemy and giving them a chance to slip past unnoticed. Liara watched him work, impressed by his resourcefulness. "You are clever," she admitted one evening as the ship floated near a neutral planet for refueling. "Most of your kind would panic. You do not." Ethan smiled, brushing a hand over his forehead. "Humans are used to surviving. We adapt, find solutions, and keep moving forward. And sometimes, we surprise even ourselves." Liara regarded him silently, her thoughts unspoken but intense. The more time they spent together, the more she realized how rare this connection was. She had encountered many intelligent beings in her lifetime, yet none had made her feel the way Ethan did. There was trust, curiosity, and a strange warmth that she couldn't name but recognized when it stirred inside her. Days passed as they traveled through uncharted space, repairing minor systems, avoiding patrols, and sharing stories of their lives. Ethan spoke of Earth, of oceans and forests, of nights under a sky crowded with stars, but so familiar and calm. Liara shared fragments of her world, of towering crystal cities, of political unrest, and of a species that valued knowledge and strength above all else. They learned from each other, their conversations bridging the gap between species, creating understanding where fear might have lived. But danger was never far. One morning, as the ship approached Liara's home system, alarms blared. A fleet of enemy vessels appeared on the radar, sleek and armed, cutting through the void like predators. Ethan's heart pounded, but his hands moved with practiced precision. He rerouted power to the shields, recalculated escape trajectories, and prepared the ship's limited weapons for defensive maneuvers. Liara stood beside him, calm but alert. "We cannot outrun them all," she said. "We must be strategic." Ethan nodded. "Then we fight smart, not fast." The battle that followed was chaotic and intense. Laser fire lit up the darkness of space, and the hull of Liara's ship shuddered under the assault. Ethan and Liara worked seamlessly together, he analyzing enemy patterns, she coordinating evasive maneuvers. At one point, a missile locked onto the ship's rear, and Ethan dove into the corridor to manually override the launch, risking exposure. Liara noticed and rushed to assist, placing herself in the path of danger without hesitation. For a brief moment, their hands touched while adjusting the controls, and a silent acknowledgement passed between them. They were not just allies fighting for survival. They were partners, each relying on the other's courage and instincts. The bond between them deepened in ways words could not capture. Finally, using a combination of human ingenuity and Varelian technology, they tricked the enemy fleet into colliding with an asteroid field. The pursuing ships were damaged, forcing them to retreat, leaving Ethan and Liara free to continue their journey. Both were exhausted but unbroken. After the battle, they sat together in the observation deck, watching the stars pass by. Liara's usual composure had softened, and she allowed herself a moment of reflection. "You risked your life for me," she said quietly. "Most of your kind would have run or hidden. Why did you stay?" Ethan looked at her, his expression serious but calm. "Because someone had to. And because I care. Not just for your safety, but for you. I don't know what this is yet, but I know I couldn't leave you alone." Liara felt a warmth spread through her. An unfamiliar but welcome sensation. Her species valued logic and strength, and emotion often complicated decisions. Yet, standing here, in the silence of space with a human who had proven courage beyond measure, she felt something shift inside her. Trust, respect, and perhaps the beginnings of something deeper were forming. "You are unusual," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship. "And I think I like that." Ethan's smile widened, and he reached out gently, brushing a hand against her arm. The gesture was simple but meaningful, a bridge between two worlds, two species, and two hearts. "Then maybe this is the start of something neither of us expected," he said softly. As they neared Liara's home planet, they faced their final challenge. Rival factions had laid traps in orbit, hoping to capture her before she could return. The two worked tirelessly, combining human ingenuity with Varelian technology, disabling mines and avoiding patrols. Each obstacle strengthened their bond, forcing them to communicate without words, anticipating each other's movements and decisions. Finally, they entered safe orbit above Liara's home city. Towering crystal spires glinted in the light of the distant sun, and the air of authority and grandeur was palpable. But despite the beauty and power surrounding them, Liara focused on Ethan. She saw the human who had risked everything, who had faced fear and uncertainty with determination, and who had looked at her, not as a legend, not as a target, but as a being worthy of trust and care. "You have changed me," she said softly, her eyes reflecting the city lights below. "Not just because of your courage, but because of your heart." Ethan stepped closer, his own eyes reflecting relief, admiration, and something more profound. "And you've changed me," he replied. "You've shown me that even in the vast unknown, connection is possible, that trust and courage can exist, even between different worlds." For a long moment, they simply stood together, two beings from different planets, different species, yet finding unity in shared experience and respect. The dangers of the past days faded into the background, leaving only the quiet, powerful bond forming between them. Liara's advisors arrived, formally greeting her and scanning Ethan with suspicion and curiosity. But she stood firm, her hand brushing his briefly, a subtle yet clear sign that she trusted him. Her presence and status commanded attention. Yet her eyes remained on Ethan, signaling that in this moment, nothing else mattered. "You will be safe here," Liara said finally, addressing him. "But I do not wish to part from you entirely. Not yet. Perhaps not ever." Ethan nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. Space was vast, filled with unknown threats and wonders alike. But here, now, he had found something rare and extraordinary, a connection that transcended distance, species, and expectation. He felt a sense of purpose, of belonging, and of potential for the future that neither had anticipated. As night fell over the city, Liara and Ethan stood on a high balcony, looking out at the stars. She turned to him, her voice soft but certain. "You keep staring like that," she whispered once more, echoing the words that had started this bond. "And I think I might start to like it even more." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of the past days, the dangers they had faced, and the trust they had built. "Then I'll keep staring," he said, "because I want to see everything about you. And maybe learn what it means to belong somewhere, with someone, even in the far reaches of space." The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of dangers, wonders, and possibilities. But for the first time, Ethan and Liara knew that some bonds, built on trust, courage, and respect, were stronger than the vastness of space itself. Together, they would face whatever came next, side by side, two beings from different worlds, learning that connection, care, and perhaps even love could exist between humans and Varelians. As the night deepened, they watched the stars in silence, a quiet understanding passing between them. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, both knew they would face it together, and that was enough.